There comes a moment when the storm you once feared begins to lose its power. The chaos that used to pull you in no longer shakes your ground. You start to see through the charm, the manipulation, the endless cycle of guilt and control, and something inside you shifts. That shift is freedom, not the kind that comes quietly, but the kind that demands strength, endurance, and an unshakable belief that you deserve peace. When you finally defeat a narcissist, it doesn't look like victory in the movies. There are no applause, no grand declarations, no closure. It's quieter than that, more personal, more sacred. It's the calm after a long war, where your silence speaks louder than their words ever could. You stop explaining, you stop proving, you stop trying to make them see, and that's the exact moment they realize you've won. But the aftermath is not without signs. The narcissist begins to show cracks in their armor, subtle yet revealing. They rage, they retreat, they rewrite the story, they chase the version of you they can no longer control. Each sign is proof that you've broken the spell, that you've taken back what they once owned, your energy, your attention, your power. This isn't just about defeating them. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about walking away from the chaos with your head held high, knowing the battle wasn't to destroy them. It was to rediscover you. In the beginning, the narcissist wears a mask so polished it blinds you. Their charm feels magnetic, their confidence intoxicating. They mirror your desires, your values, your dreams, until you start to see yourself reflected in their eyes. But beneath that surface lies an agenda: control, validation, and the quiet hunger to be seen as superior. For a while it works. You give, they take. You explain, they twist. You bend, and they call it love. And in the process, you begin to disappear behind their illusion. But illusions can't survive in the light. There comes a moment, often small and unexpected, when the mask begins to crack. Maybe it's the tone in their voice when they realize you're not reacting the way you used to. Maybe it's the silence you offer instead of defense. Or maybe it's the way you begin to look at them, not with admiration, but with clarity. That's the moment their illusion starts to crumble, because what kept them powerful was never who they were, but what you believed they were. When the mask slips, their carefully crafted image begins to fall apart. The charm that once felt irresistible turns hollow. The flattery loses its flavor. You start to see the patterns, how every apology was a strategy, every compliment a transaction, every moment of affection a test of control. What you're witnessing isn't just their unmasking, it's your awakening, and that shift terrifies them. Narcissists thrive on reaction. Your confusion, your emotion, your need to fix things. It all feeds them. But when you detach, when you stop playing their game, they lose their script. They don't know how to exist without your energy reflecting them back to themselves. Their mask begins to slip faster then. You might see rage where there was once charm. You might see withdrawal disguised as indifference. You might even see desperation hidden behind accusations. It's not love that drives them now. It's the fear of losing relevance. They can't control what they can't deceive. And when the illusion collapses, they're left facing something they've spent their whole lives running from. Their own emptiness. For you, this is where the transformation begins. You no longer need to expose them, argue with them, or make them understand. You simply stop being available for their performance. You see them not as the powerful figure they wanted to be, but as a person built on fragile ego and borrowed confidence. And that sight alone is power. The control they once had dissolves because it relied entirely on your belief. When the mask slips, you learn that your clarity is the most dangerous thing in the world to someone who lives in illusion. You begin to walk differently, breathe differently, exist differently. You realize that peace doesn't come from defeating them in battle. It comes from no longer needing to fight at all. When you finally stand up to a narcissist, The calm before the storm never lasts long. What follows is not logic, not understanding, but rage, visceral, unfiltered eruption of ego. It's not about you anymore. It never was. It's about the mirror they can no longer control, the reflection that once validated their power, now refusing to bend. You've broken the cycle, and in doing so, you've shattered the illusion that kept them in control. Narcissistic rage is not just anger, it's exposure. Beneath their confidence lies an unstable structure built on insecurity and shame. When you withdraw your energy, when you stop reacting to their manipulation, their world begins to collapse in on itself. They feel the loss of dominance like oxygen leaving their lungs. You become the proof that they're not invincible, that their power was never real. It only existed as long as you believed in it. They'll try to provoke you, to pull you back into their emotional orbit. Their words become weapons designed to wound, confuse, and reassert control. They may lash out, accuse, belittle, or even play the victim. It's all an attempt to reclaim the narrative, to make you the unstable one, the ungrateful one, the villain of their story. But you've changed. You no longer react, and that silence cuts deeper than any confrontation ever could. To a narcissist, your strength is not just resistance, it's betrayal. They built their identity around being the one who defines you, and when you take that power back, they're left with an unbearable void. You've become a reminder of everything they can't own, everything they can't become. That's why their rage feels so personal, so targeted. It's a desperate attempt to destroy what they can't control. But in truth, it's not hatred they feel for you, it's envy. You represent freedom, authenticity, and emotional stability, all the things they crave but cannot sustain. This collapse is often loud, dramatic, and unpredictable. Some narcissists fight harder, while others retreat into silence, masking their defeat behind cold indifference. Yet both reactions reveal the same truth: their ego is cracking. The facade that once intimidated others no longer holds power over you. Every insult, every guilt trip, every silent treatment becomes less effective. Their power fades not because you fought harder, but because you stopped engaging. And in that moment, something profound happens. You start to reclaim yourself. The energy you once poured into defending, explaining, and proving now returns to you. You see the patterns clearly, the manipulation for what it was, and you begin to heal. Their rage no longer defines you. It exposes them. In life, standing in your strength often invites resistance. People who rely on your weakness will always resent your growth, but it's that very resistance that confirms your transformation. You are no longer the fuel that feeds their fire. You've become the flame they can't extinguish. When you finally go silent with a narcissist, something remarkable happens. The dynamic that once revolved around chaos, arguments, and emotional tug-of-war suddenly collapses. They are left without their favorite weapon, your reaction, and in that void, their desperation begins to surface. Silence, which once felt powerless, now becomes your greatest form of strength. It's the moment you stop dancing to their rhythm, and they realize the music no longer plays for them. A narcissist feeds on attention, whether it's admiration or anger. Every word you offer, every explanation you give, keeps their ego alive. But when you stop engaging, when you refuse to defend yourself or respond to their manipulation, you deprive them of the oxygen they need to survive. It's not just that you're quiet, it's that your silence reflects something they can't tolerate. Indifference to them. Indifference is annihilation, because it means they no longer control the emotional landscape. That's when the chase begins. They will reach out in subtle, familiar ways: texts, social media posts, nostalgic reminders of the good times, sudden apologies that feel too polished to be real. It's not love calling you back, It's the fear of losing their source of validation. Your silence forces them to confront a truth they've spent years avoiding, that they are not the center of your world anymore. The more you withhold your energy, the more frantic their efforts become. They might switch tactics, alternating between affection and aggression, sympathy and blame. They may try to provoke guilt, painting themselves as misunderstood victims of your coldness. Others may attempt to flaunt their new lives, pretending to have moved on effortlessly, all in hopes of catching your attention again. But every move they make is a reflection of their panic, not power. They are chasing a reaction, a glimpse of the control they've lost, a confirmation that they still matter. In real life, silence is often misunderstood. People think it's avoidance, weakness, or indifference. But in the context of breaking free from a narcissist, silence is a strategy of survival. It's how you reclaim your peace and rebuild your sense of self without being pulled back into the emotional storm. It's how you teach yourself that not every battle deserves your voice, and not every person deserves access to your emotions. As you hold your silence, something inside you shifts. You begin to feel grounded in your own energy again. You start to notice the calm that once felt foreign, the absence of chaos that now feels sacred. You learn that peace isn't loud, it's steady, patient, and self-contained, and though they may chase your attention, what they'll never catch again is your vulnerability. The desperate chase is not proof of love, it's proof of loss. The loss of control, of power, of the version of you that once kept their ego alive. What they're really chasing is the silence that now protects you. When a narcissist realizes they can no longer control you, they don't simply let go. They rewrite the story. They become the editor of a narrative that protects their ego, one where they are always the victim, the misunderstood hero, or the one who tried their best while you became the villain. This rewrite isn't about truth, it's about image preservation. It's about reclaiming control in the only way they have left, by controlling how others see what happened. It often begins quietly. They start planting seeds in conversations, subtly reframing the past. They talk about how difficult you were, how much they sacrificed, how deeply they cared, but how you were the one who walked away. To the untrained ear, it sounds believable. Narcissists are skilled storytellers. They know how to use emotion as camouflage, how to twist facts until lies sound like lived experience. But to you, the one who's seen behind the curtain, it's all too familiar. You recognize the manipulation disguised as memory, the half-truths built to provoke doubt. The rewrite serves a deeper psychological purpose. Losing control over you shatters their carefully crafted sense of superiority. So they rebuild it through fiction. They can't stand the idea of being the one exposed, the one left behind, the one at fault. Instead, they construct a version of reality where you're the cause of their pain, where your boundaries become cruelty, and your silence becomes evidence of guilt. It's a performance meant not only for others, but for themselves. In life, this pattern extends beyond romantic relationships. You see it in workplaces, friendships, even families. The narcissist's rewrite spreads through whispers, rumors, and reimagined memories. It's a campaign to reshape perception, to make others question you, to make you question yourself. But what they fail to understand is that truth has a different kind of endurance. It doesn't need defense or proof, it simply exists. Their attempt to rewrite the story often backfires over time, because the same charm that once drew people in begins to fracture under inconsistency. Their stories change, their emotions swing, and eventually the cracks begin to show. Those who once believed them start noticing the patterns, the same victimhood, the same grievances, the same cycle of blame. The illusion becomes harder to sustain when the script keeps changing. For you, the challenge lies in resisting the urge to correct the narrative. The instinct to defend yourself is human, but engaging only keeps you trapped in their game. The real strength lies in detachment, allowing their story to exist without giving it your energy. You know the truth of what you lived through, and that truth doesn't need an audience. With time, you learn that your piece is louder than their propaganda. The rewrite loses its power because you no longer participate in it. They can twist the story, but they can't twist your growth, and that is what they'll never be able to edit out. There comes a point when survival turns into healing. After the storm of manipulation, chaos, and emotional exhaustion, you wake up to a strange quiet. It's unsettling at first. You've been conditioned to live in reaction, to anticipate conflict, to brace for the next emotional blow. But the silence that follows your escape from a narcissist isn't emptiness. It's the sound of your life beginning again. It's the first breath after being underwater for too long. Reclaiming peace after such a battle isn't immediate. It's a process of unlearning, of rebuilding the self that was slowly dismantled piece by piece. You begin to notice how deeply the chaos lived inside you, how their voice became your inner critic, how their approval became your sense of worth, how your world revolved around managing their emotions. Healing means learning to exist without that constant noise. It means teaching yourself that stillness isn't danger, that calm isn't a trap, that love doesn't have to hurt to feel real. At first, the wreckage feels overwhelming. You look around and see parts of your identity scattered, your confidence, your boundaries, your joy. But hidden within that mess are fragments of resilience you didn't know you had. Every time you stood your ground, every time you chose silence instead of reaction, every time you walked away instead of explaining again, you were already rebuilding. You just couldn't see it then. In life, peace is not something that arrives suddenly. It's something you create intentionally. You start by redefining what safety feels like. You find it in solitude, in quiet moments where you reconnect with yourself. You rediscover the small things that bring genuine comfort, the smell of morning air, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of your own laughter returning. Slowly, you realize that peace isn't external. It was never theirs to give or take. It's a state that grows from within once the emotional war ends. But the healing journey also exposes a paradox. When you've lived in emotional survival mode for so long, peace can feel foreign. You might find yourself searching for intensity, mistaking it for connection. You might crave closure from the very person who caused the damage, hoping for validation they will never provide. This is where the real battle begins, the one between your past conditioning and your present awareness. You start to see that closure isn't something you receive, it's something you decide. Reclaiming peace means forgiving yourself for what you didn't know, for the times you stayed too long, for the moments you doubted your worth. It means setting boundaries without guilt, speaking your truth without fear, and allowing yourself to exist without explanation. You begin to live again, not as a reaction to pain, but as a celebration of survival. And while the scars remain, they no longer define you. They become reminders of the person you fought to become, the one who chose peace not because it was easy, but because it was finally possible. In the end, defeating a narcissist isn't about winning against them, it's about winning yourself back. The victory is silent, internal, and profoundly personal. It's in the way you no longer flinch at their name, no longer seek their validation, no longer allow their chaos to dictate your peace. You become the calm they can't disturb, the silence they can't manipulate, the truth they can't rewrite. There's power in realizing that the person they tried to break became stronger because of the breaking. You walked through the fire not to destroy them, but to forge yourself into something untouchable. The scars you carry are not marks of damage. They are proof of your becoming. As you move forward, you start to understand that peace is not the absence of pain, but the mastery of it. It's the quiet knowing that your story no longer belongs to the past. It belongs to the person you've become through surviving it. And in that stillness, that unshakable sense of self, you find something far greater than revenge or recognition. You find freedom, the kind that doesn't need to be seen, only lived.